our finish coat on our corner beads and our butt joints today. And for that, we're just going to give it a quick rough sand. You don't want to sand all your mud off. You can take off any little nuggets that might get caught up in your finishing mud. You can take it to the side. And at the same time, we're going to hit these flats because we're going to finish them after the beads and butt. Take about an hour and a half, a couple hours to dry at the most. Scrape my full off there. A little lumps on the edges. The edges are pretty tight. So make sure there's no debris. Make sure you take all your nuggets off the flat. And that's about it. Yeah, I'm going to give these a quick little rough sand here. All we're going to do here is knock your little edges off there. Everything's pretty tight. Those two lines where we pulled our trowel, we'll knock them down. Once up the middle where my tape is. I'll hit this flat because I'm here. Like I say, it shouldn't be much sand. Everything's pretty flat. Not so long time. That's the tape there one. That's pretty good. Feels pretty good. This here is a 180 grit. I use it for rough sanding. It's a little bit coarser than what I'd use for finish sanding. I use 220 for finish sanding. It doesn't scratch as much. So you can buy it, use the foam back here. I find it sounds a little bit nicer than that flat film shit. That flat film stuff. Alright. Finished coating a butt joint here. I want your mud a little bit thinner than what it was the first time. Not so thin that it's going to shrink back too much on you. It's really easy to work though. And same thing as a first coat. We'll go a little wider though. I always like to overlap my edges. Because if you don't, then they start to stack. Same with this side here. One up the middle. Get that top off. And it's same thing, just like the first coat. You cut your edges nice and tight. Cut your top. And I like to go to the middle where the tape is. Take the majority of that mud right back off. And then I use a bigger trowel. And go from the tape to the edge. See, you can see how it's just taking off the edges there now. And that's about her. That's that one there. We'll do this other one for you. About a half inch each wider than my first coat. On my growl, it squares right off to cut those edges so it's nice and tight. We're going to be finished sanding after this coat, and the less sanding the better. Cut that off in the middle. Just a big growl. You can see on that last wipe how we just took it off to one side. So actually what we're doing is loading both sides of that tape and filling where the hollow might be. Now remember, I'm going to go around and do this whole house, beads and butts. And by the time I'm done that, I should be able to go back to the start and start on my flats. Alright, we're going to finish coat this corner bead. Just want to scrape any of those goobers off there that might get some mud. You can see this butt joint here, so it's left some little unwanted friends. Once that's done, it's the same as the first coat, just like a butt joint. Now I'll go to this side, do the same thing, load it. There, once my application's on, cut your edges. Nice and tight. We don't like the center. Same with this side. Side, go down. Take the knife, push it off to the bottom. Side. Same thing, you kind of want to overlap it, half inch or so over your first coat. Let your trowel off. Get your edge. Your trowel off. And clean the edge of your bead before digging into your work. There you have it, there's a finished coated butt or bead. And like I say, after beads and butts are done, hour and a half, go back to where I started and I can start skimming my flats, and I'll show you that in the next episode. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes since I coated these butt joints. I just wanted to show you quickly the reason for the way I finish coat my butt joints. You can see how the edges are starting to dry already. It's got this white nice and tight, there's no edge there. Very minimal sanding when it comes time to sand. You can also see up the center where the tape is, how it's starting to dry faster too. That's the reason for me using my big trowel. You can see where it's wet on each side of the tape there. And that's where it's hollow. And that's the reason for the way I use my big trowel. It fills that hollow spot for you. Same scenario with this butt joint here. You can see how the edges are drying. No edge, minimal sanding. You can see how it's starting to dry up the middle. It's loaded on both sides of that tape. So what we've done is try to take the hump out of that butt joint. You can see how it's starting to blend in up top. It's because I cut it nice and flat and it's starting to dry there. And that's the reason I use this big trowel. So we'll do another shot and another 10 minutes here just to show you how much more it'll dry and the way it's drying. All right, so we've been about 20-25 minutes here and I told you to come back and show you a little bit more. You can see where it's drying, where your tape is, your edge is cut tight. All right, day 5 here. We're gonna finish coat our flats. We gave them a quick rough set yesterday, if you remember that. And for finishing these flats, you can see how thin my mud is. I like to thin it right out, make it easy to work with. Same thing as the first coat. Go a little wider though. Half inch wider, inch wider. Try to keep your lines as straight as possible. Cut my edges. Nice and tight. And pretty much turn my towel off, take it right back off on that side, and back off on top, and one flat on the middle. Continue on. Make a little mess like that, that's fine. Clean it up. Like a little thin, it's a little harder to work with. Pull down the middle. So there is good. There's the finished flat. See how tight my edges are? And come to sand, there's hardly any sand in it. Alright, we're going to do a little final coat, a second coat on our blown out plug here. And go around the house and do them all. And you see where my line is from the first coat there. And just get rid of that, hit the edges. And the same thing as the first time. Just work it on the side here. Always go a little wider and overlap your first coat. Your edges. This one here you should be able to go a little tighter on it. Take more of your mud off. It's kind of a skim coat. There you go. That's finished, ready to be sanded and painted. We're gonna hit the other side of our angles here. Last thing to do before sanding. Just put a little clean up there, make sure there's no nuggets. All your mud, nice and evenly. We start at the bottom and work my way up. It's always easier pulling down than it is trying to work up. Cut your edge. And square your knife off. Alright, and as we come up here into our three-way, it's important that you do your three-way the best you can, as clean as you can on your first coat. Makes your second coat that much easier. Whoops. Try not to make a mess like that. And you want to applicate all three sides before you do any whitening. up your edge here. And then cut your edge, outside corner of your knife. Nice straight line. Clean the excess off. Cut your edge. Clean the excess. Start with the top one. The ceiling will be textured, so you can get away with going pretty much tight. Makes it a little easier so you don't dig in when you pull your other two sides. Let's see, you might have to go back a second time. You want this nice and clean as possible, nice and tight, so there's minimal sanding in your three-ways. As you can see, when it's done, it's nice and square. Sometimes if you dig into your other side, I started a little early there, I took a little skiff of mud. And just gently go into that corner. There. Alright, I just want to show you, it's been about 10 minutes since I coated this flat. Just want to show you a little bit how it's drying. You can see how tight my edges are, you can't even feel that. So when it comes time to sand, it's just a quick and then over the surface. You can see how it's drying over the butt joint here a little bit quicker. The darker spots are your low spots from your first coat. And when you take it right off like that, that's why I coat my flats like that, rather than finish coat with a box, a 12-inch box. I find you get a much flatter product, and when it dries, it's much easier to sand. I just go half a blade, and I overlap the whole screw. So there's no stacking, no edges. Make them a little bigger so you cover all your first and second coat. You want to dry out on you, grab some fresh stuff. That's all there is to her. Alright, today we're going to do a little bit of sanding, our last step. To start off, I just wanted to show you the paper I use. There's the roll that I was talking about. It's a 220 grit. You cut a piece to size. Put it on your pole sander. And as you can see, I've already hit my screws. I put this piece on already. I went to hit all my screws first, just to dull my paper up and less likely to have scratches in your work when sanding. I usually wear a mask. I'm not going to for this clip so I can talk. And I have a sanding sponge. And same thing, I'll hit a couple screws with it if it's new. it'll scratch your work. So I hit a couple of screws, dulled it up, and I'll show you how to use that afterwards. All right, so as you can see, everything's pretty flat. You don't want to over sand. So I'm going to start with my butt joints. I'll just take off any edge. I'll hit this plug at the same time. Across the edges. As you can see, I run my pole sander at 45. If you run it this way, you have a chance of it flipping and scoring up all your work. I run it at about 45. You don't need to push too hard. Let the pole sander do the work. The other butt joint. You want to be very careful when you get up to the top. You don't want to be jamming it into your top angle. Banging up all your work. Those edges. After my butts are done, I go up to my flat. Just take that edge off, top and bottom. Get the edges off. Remember how thin we put it on? You don't want to over sand. It's pretty good. From there, I come over. Gently put it into my angle. And then take the edge off my angle. Pull that a little flat. Side, gently. Keep the pressure in there so it's tight and it's not bouncing around off the other side of your angle. Marking it all up. Take your edge off. And same thing with the flat. Just walk down, take your edge off. Bottom. And when you get to your corner bead, exact same thing. When you keep your edge off. Up and down. Remember to keep this at 45. If you don't, it will roll on you and make a mess of your work. Plug spinner again. With the edges off. A couple right passes. All on. As you can see, I'm pushing a lot harder when I'm doing my edges. I don't want no edges on there. Once paint goes on, if there's any edges left, it'll show through your paint. There's nothing like patches over the middle. I use a 300 watt light bulb. I'll start right where I started. And if you shine it from the side across your work, you can see any scratches. This looks pretty good. There's a few little scratches from your sandpaper. Always is. And this sponge here, it's a well worked in sponge. It'll take those scratches out for you. Walk it down my flat. Usually hold it below or above. Just walk it down the flat. You can see scratches. Probably can't see them on camera, but they're there. Very good. From there, we'll go to our angle. Now when I do this angle, you don't want to ram your sponge right into the angle. Like when I had my pole sander, I kept all the pressure on so it wasn't bouncing around. There's actually a rail on the pole sander. That's what leaves that black mark. And it rides on there. But if you don't want to push your sponge right tight into the corner because it'll actually gouge out a great big groove on the other side of your angle. So I just lightly take off that black mark. Up the other side. With your light back and forth, you can see the inside of your angle pretty good. Go back to the flat, it looks good, and on we go. Looks pretty good. A few minor scratches. Now, around these plugs, the sponge is a lot softer, squishier. It gets into the grooves, and you can see here, we got a couple little ripples. You can take your sponge, work it lightly around that plug, and check your corner bead. There you have it, finished sanded, light check, ready for primer.
So this is your final product. Thanks for joining along, and I want to thank Chad for taking his time out of his day. Like, as you can tell, Chad works fast and likes to get things done. So he's taking time out of his, his life to do this video for all of us. And I think using Chad as a professional can really help you guys either do your own home project really well, or even if you want to start an entertaining business yourself. He's definitely a guy you want to learn from. You can see all the clean lines. We kept it very simple. And on the other hand, if you want more information, more detail, maybe some more specifics or other little video clips, just find me, let us know, and we'll get you something. So thanks, guys. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or check us out on some of the following.